Yo, what are you doing right now? We are going to get real about men's issues, who Jesus is, and who we are as men in Christ. We're going to hear Trey, Jeremy, Michael, and Brad break it down. These guys call themselves the Cussin Christians. All right, guys, what is going on?
It's amazing how long digital cameras have been out, but we were still using film and with them for the longest time because the digital pictures weren't that good. So,
but the problem too, Jeremy, is that there's no. If something happens to your phone, or you have no physical, tangible piece of a
all
picture.
my stuff's in the iCloud.
I trust the cloud,
but you haven't printed them.
I don't need to. They're in the cloud.
I know, but you haven't printed. You don't. I mean,
yeah.
If you
someday the cloud
if
goes
you're
down.
alligator hunting and an alligator takes your arm off with your phone,
then when I get my next phone, it'll pick up right where that one was.
Well, you'd have to get your arm replaced first.
Yeah, I mean, I get a left-handed phone then.
Is there such a thing?
Of course there is.
I don't know.
I'm a lefty.
Yeah, see, he's got a left-handed phone.
I got a
Special
left-handed
order.
I don't know.
You just got to ask. If you go behind the counter, it's like one in every 6.
I'm going to have mine, all mine printed. I want physical copies.
Speaking of phones, okay, so when you hold your phone, I hold my phone like this, right?
So you don't have a knob on the back.
I don't have a knob, but I got my little finger right under the bottom. See that?
Yeah, that's how I hold mine.
Well done.
And I actually have a little bump on this finger that is like a callus.
Nice.
That has grown over the years because that's how I hold my phone. And
I do too.
I'll help you with this.
Jeremy has a solution.
These are really tough to come by. They're called earbuds. You just put those in. I can't talk on the phone for more than 3 minutes without up to my ear.
Well, I'm just talking about when I'm scrolling and I'm reading and stuff. Like at night, I'll be reading, whatever I'm reading, and
poetry.
Poetry, yeah.
Well, eating honey buns.
The perfect honey bun recipe.
This will interest you guys. So I was with a group of friends the other day, and we're talking about, if you say you're on the phone, what do you do? Like, what hand gesture would you do to tell me you're on the phone? Like this, right?
Yeah, you go like that.
So they did a study with kids these days. How do you think they show you they're on the phone?
Because they didn't. This wasn't.
They don't know what it is
back in the day.
Right.
So how do they do it?
I don't know. Oh, with a hand.
The hand flat to their face.
Open palm to their face.
Oh my God!
Really?
That's hilarious.
That's how they do it now.
Because we grew
Who
up.
cares?
With
Who does a study on that?
I mean,
we got to study. We got
I don't know.
They got
to poll the kids and see how they would signal they're on the phone. That's
I'm a wealth
bizarre.
of useless knowledge, but
I know.
It's how they do it. They put their hand flat to their ear now.
How weird.
Whereas you and I would be like,
Yeah, because we had a handheld.
yeah.
Call me. Call me.
Oh,
Well,
man.
Good morning, y'all.
last podcast of the year.
Isn't that crazy?
2023.
2023 is
Peace
gone.
out.
Peace.
You guys make New Year's resolutions?
I don't believe in them.
I don't do them, man.
I don't either.
Never have.
Do you? You look like you got.
No, I was going to say,
Couple in ya.
last year my New Year's resolution was to make some goals, set some goals, and
How'd it go?
I got 10 more days left.
You can do it, man.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll set some
You can
goals
do it.
before it's over.
I don't know.
One of my goals will be to set some New Year's resolutions
Yeah,
next year. It's a cyclical thing. I don't know.
Well,
If
you can't fail at that one then.
yeah. No, it's like buying gifts. It's like, do you wait one time of the year to buy each other gifts, or do you just do it when you need to do it? Do you set goals and resolutions one time a year, or do you just do it when you need to do it?
I will say, any change I've made in my life for good that I've stuck with, I never did it because of I need to do it at this day.
Right.
It's like a very random day
Right.
once I make that change, because it's just like in my life, that's the day it's like, all right, it's time. And
Did
then
you
I stay
get-
committed.
Like weightlifting, obviously. I want to hit. What could you bench? Did you go to a combine?
I did it at the Senior Bowl, and then they came to the schools to do it. I didn't go to the combine.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I did 225 or 28.
Yeah.
Was kind of it. But
It's pretty good.
I should have done more. I ended up blowing it out. I
220,
I
221,
went too
whatever it
fast in the
takes.
beginning, and I ended up hitting myself in the chest and knocking my wind out. So it's like,
Oh, man.
for a couple.
Could have done
that
35.
I might have got to 35.
Oh,
yeah, I don't
man.
know.
Hazard of the job, man.
Yeah.
Well, it must have worked. You got into the NFL, so
I always thought that was a silly one though, because you you don't just sit. It's like, okay, off defensive lineman. Let me see how many times I can press before I wear it. That's how it works.
28
you know what I mean?
times. True. I saw some clips on Instagram like yesterday. Reggie White, and he did this one move where he would get into the lineman and he would have his right arm like hooked on the guy and he would just toss him.
I saw that.
He tossed Larry Allen from the Cowboys. He just tossed him.
He flung
but it's like a leverage and an angle thing that he had down because it showed like 6 clips in a row of him just tossing these 300-pound dudes like they were nothing.
Oh yeah.
But it's leverage and it's angles and of course he had the power too. But it's cool to watch.
We had one that was like a hip move where if like they got to your edge and you got your arm like this on them, you would kick your leg out to get out in front of them, and as soon as you did, you were in the perfect position.
Like Kung Fu.
It was literally small the back, hand in the chest. When you kicked it just right, you went and it was just like right to the back. Didn't matter how big you were.
That would feel so good to do that to a 300-pound dude.
It's pretty liberating.
To toss him. I'll bet.
What was your favorite part of the year?
My favorite part of the year? Christmas has always been cool for me. I love it. I love the giving. I'm not so much into receiving gifts. That's not real big on my. I don't, but giving is really high. Loved it when the kids were little.
Yep.
I wish I could. I wish I could pinpoint something in the year that just. I'm just overwhelmed by what's happened with us and what we do just as an overall. That night of those guys with Zach Williams ripping up those signs, you guys ripping up those signs out there was, it was like, wow, all right, now what, Lord? And now there's going to be bigger and better things in 2024. So, but yeah, I don't have anything.
You made the announcement. I mean, Tim Tebow is going to be a pretty big one.
Yeah.
What an amazing people, and he totally buys into what we're going to be doing that Father's Day weekend at the King Center. Sometimes I pinch myself and go, all right, I'm going to get up in the morning and go, all right, Lord, there's another day. Here we go. And no day's the same. And not that there aren't stresses with life and everything else. It's tough to keep up in the ministry, man. It's hard. It's challenging. It wears you down. So I'm looking. I
think that's a big misnomer too. People think that like how your pastor or your ministry leader or these guys, like you guys don't get tired. Like what people don't realize is that you don't just deal with your own crap. You deal with the crap of everybody that calls too.
That's so true.
So like, whereas like somebody like me, like, yeah, we do this, but like, I don't necessarily take the burdens of everybody that calls impact onto my shoulders and try to figure out how to help them. And,
right.
And unfortunately you can't help everybody. So like, how do you decide? And unfortunately, a lot of people are full of crap. Like they don't really want help. They just want a shoulder to cry on, so it's kind of crazy because people don't realize you guys, like, it's a big deal. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, mentally, it's a lot.
Right.
And then, I got to admit, y'all know my personality, and I want everybody happy. So if my phone rings, I feel like I need to answer it. And sometimes I struggle with setting up a boundary to just say, Trey, alone time. So I'm looking forward to next week as Christmas is here. And
nobody call Trey next week.
Probably will not be answering.
It's a good week to call Baby Jesus.
Yeah, call Baby Jesus, and let's focus on him, and we'll go from there.
I love that scene in Talladega.
Sweet baby, innocent Jesus.
Y'all come on! I slaved all day making this dinner. Taco Bell and Pizza Hut.
What about you, Jeremy? High point of 2023.
I think we're going to kind of talk about a little bit in a minute. Our topic for today, and I think that's actually might be my high point for the year.
Yeah.
It hasn't turned into the highest point that I want it to be. In fact, it's not turning out as quickly as I hope. But I think when I look back, leaving my past employer and being kind of forced into this role that I'm in today, because I'd been in I would say upper middle management, however you want to look at it. I got really disconnected from the ground. And it's really grounded me a lot this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like things had just come so easy for so many years because I was in just a role that it was easy. And but I feel a lot more connected to where I should have been.
Sure.
So now I'm kind of like feet on the ground again a little bit versus like at some points I just kept thinking, I'd be like, oh no, you're just going to make calls, do it, it'll work out. Like, and it does. But like at the same time, like now I'm like, wait a second, like, I guess I just have a different perspective now. So I think that even though it's not turned out where I want it to be yet, I just have this like faith of where it's headed, and I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah.
Even though, I definitely have a lot of faith right now.
That's cool.
Let's put it that way. But yeah, I think that actually might be the best thing that ever happened to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That'll be good to dig into later.
Yeah, it'd be cool to talk about that in like 6 months.
Yeah.
That's
for sure.
fantastic.
Yep.
What about you, Lefty?
I think in May, I had just finished a big project with Disney. My wife had just finished two years of online schooling, got her master's degree, and so we took some time off and went up to Acadia National Park for a week. That
was big.
And hiked, and just kind of the relief and the accomplishment, having those things finished, and then having that alone time with her and just hiking and enjoying the beauty and the perfect weather up there in Maine was unforgettable. It was really a great time of refreshing and all that. So that was a really good moment of the year for us.
There's a lot of things people are experiencing that aren't great, and I know, Brad, you brought it on your heart to maybe go into some of these discussions today, and I applaud you for that, because as we're starting to turn the year, looking at 2024 about how we can focus more to overcome the darts, the arrows, the flaming arrows that are consistently launched at us. What was on your heart, man?
Last week I was reading through Esther and just reading about that story, and I just thought it was such an interesting story. There's this guy named Haman who was he was in the court of King Xerxes, and he was full of himself. This guy was a real jerk, and he wanted everybody to bow down to him. And so the king says, yeah, everybody should bow down when you see Haman walk by. And there was a Jew named Mordecai who was like not having it. And he's like, I'm not bowing down to this guy for anything. And Mordecai's cousin was Esther, who had become queen. And so she was, with King Xerxes and everything. But Haman saw that Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him, so he hated him. And he told the king, he's like, there's a group of people that will not do what you say. So, I want you to decree an edict that they all die, that we kill them all. And the king was like, okay, whatever you want, Haman, because you're the man. And so Haman had some gallows, he had them put up, and he was going to hang Mordecai. And in the meantime, there was one night where the king couldn't sleep, and he had one of his guys read like some historical records. And as he was reading it, he read one part where Mordecai had uncovered a plot to assassinate the king. And the king was like, wow. He's like, oh, I forgot about that. He's like, what was done to honor this man? And they said, well, nothing. And so he found, Haman happened to be walking by. And so he says, Haman, what should we do to honor somebody who's done something? And Haman thought he was talking about him. And so Haman's like, oh, well, we should put a robe on him, and you should parade him around and do all this stuff. And it ended up being for Mordecai. Right. And so Haman had to be the guy to go get Mordecai and put a robe on him and honor him. I mean, it's almost kind of a dark comedy in a way, this whole story, because later when Esther found out the plot to kill all the Jews, she told the king, she's like, I want to have a dinner for you, and I want Haman to be there, and we're going to have this big dinner, and we're going to honor you and all this stuff. And so Haman thought, this is all about me. And then when they got to the dinner, she said, Haman he's the guy who wants to kill all the Jews. And so the king was really mad, and at one point Haman kind of was hanging on to her, like saying, save me, don't let this happen. And the king thought that Haman was like coming on to her. He's like, well, you're going to do this now? Yeah. And so the gallows that Haman had put up to hang Mordecai on, they ended up hanging Haman on there. And so it's like all this stuff that he had plotted for evil for the Jews and for Haman, they ended up being honored, and they ended up being, it's like the whole thing flipped on him. So, and for a while there, because when the Jews found out that they were all going to be killed, they all wept and mourned and put ashes on their heads. They did that whole thing. So I don't know how long that was, but for a long time they thought, we're going to die. Like, this is terrible. And they cried out to the Lord, and then the whole thing ended up reversing. And so, and there's also, the story of Joseph, where they throw him in the pit, they do all these things, and he ends up being second in command in all of Egypt. And there's one line where he says, what you meant for evil, God meant it for good. And so that was kind of the theme that I saw between these two stories. Sometimes when you're in a bad spot, and you feel like all these bad things are happening to me, it's like God can use it for good. And so I just thought that was an interesting story and something that can encourage us when we're in a bad place.
But where do you draw the line between my problem to fix things and letting God do what he needs to do in order to get you out of a situation? I think a lot of times we jump so fast, especially as men, to fix it and to do something about it, as opposed to letting God work in a particular situation. And that's tough. That's tough for me. But we're seeing that now, that whole story. Where are you, God? Why is this evil getting heavier and heavier
Right.
and heavier upon your people, and it doesn't seem like he's doing anything, but he's always working. There's a song they sang a few weeks ago. He's always working, and he is. But we don't let him as men sometimes to do what he needs to do.
Well, and sometimes I think we don't sit back and listen to what God has the plan for us, right? Because we want something, but like that's our, instead of actually saying, hey, what is, so I want this, right? But what do you want? Like what's actually going to make sense to you, God? Like what's in your will's plan, right? Because when we go against it, it goes bad, right? So it's like, if you look back, or at least if I do look back in my life, and I'm thinking, okay, there's times when I really, really wanted something, but then it kept going wrong, it never went the right way, and then all of a sudden when I gave up on it and went a different direction, all of a sudden it worked out. And it worked out perfectly, like in ways that it shouldn't have worked out.
Right.
And it's like, well, that was because I was going towards my plan. I was putting all my effort into my plan,
Right.
but I wasn't putting any effort into God's plan at that point. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I think there's a distinction too between things that we do to ourselves as opposed to things that happen to us that are really kind of beyond our control. I wouldn't expect God to deliver me from being fat if I eat all the time. If I eat all the wrong foods and I'm unhealthy and I have an unhealthy lifestyle, that's on me. But like what happened with you in your situation where you were kind of forced out of that job and into doing your own thing, that was something that wasn't your fault. Like it was something that happened, and that's happened to me before too. I had a span where I had 3 years in a row where I was out of work during the holidays, 3 years in a row. And every time I was like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
But it was like, we have to cut back or whatever it was. But each time I ended up with a better job. Like each time God opened a different door for me. But I hated going through that. But he worked it out for my good. And so you're in that spot where he's working it out for your good.
Oh, you guys
It's
know,
a process.
I was miserable.
Yeah.
You were.
I was miserable.
You were kind of a basket case for a few times. Yeah.
I mean, I was miserable. I was, drinking too much. I was doing, just anything I could do to like just kind of try to handle the situation, except for like just quit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's because I don't have it in me to quit. So like, eventually God just said, okay, fine, you won't quit, so I'm just going to close the door for you. And of course, once it had, you guys know, I walked up that morning, I was like, hey guys, it's finally over. I actually feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
that.
And I had no idea what's happening next, but and it's still not over. I mean, it's I tell you guys all the good stuff too, but like the other thing is like I'm not making enough money right now for it to go on forever yet. You know what I mean? So it's like, but I just have this faith that it'll work out. And I think it will. I mean, like I said, I don't want to talk about me, but it is. I see. That's why I think this is going to be a cool story to tell 3 or 4 months from now when it starts to all click, because I've changed some things in the last couple of weeks and months, because I've noticed what I was trying to do my way wasn't working, and now I've kind of shifted it a little bit, and I've started doing things a different way and changing my own ways, and now I have a lot more opportunity on the board than I've had before. So,
And you guys know that I'm in somebody's life that recently just came to the Lord, but I've been his advocate, and I heard him tell one of his people, he said, I've been drinking 6 to 10 beers for the last 50 years a day.
No way.
Wow.
Really.
And it's like, going back to what you guys said, you can't put all that, in your system and then expect your health to be good.
Sure.
And that's the whole thing with moderation. Sin isn't about, and I've told this, I said, you can't sit here now, and I said, God can fix anything, but you've got some consequences of your behavior that you're actually going through right now. And I said, and that's what we do as believers. And it was a good teaching moment. And it's like, you can't put chips and cookies and all that process into your system and then expect not to be fat or tired or slow or not sleeping or whatever it is. But we are so stubborn as men, and we think that we can get ourselves out of the situation instead of just sitting back and having that peace that surpasses all understanding, asking for wisdom because he's faithful to give us wisdom, and learning. And I think I'm doing that better and better now as I get older. I'm not saying I'm old, but my dinner time and bedtime are getting really close to each other. And I think about what I look back on and all the times that I tried to push and manipulate, and it never worked out. And now that I'm able to rest a little bit and just let the Lord lead me in patience and self-control, it's working out much better.
I remember Garrett, and when he started walking, you know how when your kid starts walking, they start walking and they're doing that, and you're like right next to them with your arms to help guide them, and we're supposed to protect them from falling down, and if they do fall down, we dust them off, get back up, get in the game. And found myself over the years as I was reflecting on my and not how good a job I did, but in a way I was like looking back going, how well was I the protector for my son? And how much did I concentrate to where me protecting my boy actually turned into me trying to control outcomes instead of trusting my protector that died on the cross for that protection role to manifest itself. And it all boils down to one thing. Do I truly trust the Lord with everything, including my own kid? And I've had so many instances in my life where, no, it's Trey's way's better. And every time, Trey's way always got me off the rails.
So how do you know, I guess the question then is like, because it's a huge balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Overprotective parent or underprotective parent.
Right.
There is a middle road there, right?
Right.
Like God doesn't say, hand your kid a butcher knife and see what happens, right?
Right.
Like that's not, that's
I
dumb.
think each situation,
So-
you're going to have the wisdom in that situation
Right.
as it comes. What you were saying is, I was so selfish because I would be like, well, I deserve this.
Oh, big time. I've said that so many times.
I know I deserve this. I'm, and that's where my selfishness and arrogance got in the way and caused such a ripple effect with my sin. And it's like, I deserve this, but no, I didn't have my mind on Christ at the time.
You deserve the good feeling that
Exactly.
you deserve. I said that so many times. I really needed that tonight. I've said that before.
Right.
What triggers inside of us this surrender of your blood and resurrection were that powerful and that good enough? And there's nothing I can do to trump that, Lord. There's jack I can do to trump that.
Well, how hard is it? What's the scripture? To rejoice in your suffering, right?
Well, Romans 5,
Yeah, I mean that's difficult.
Yeah.
To be like, thank you God for all the pain that's coming over top of me right now. And I trust that it's going to take me somewhere better.
Garrett.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
My son, he's coming in tonight. We're picking him up at the airport, but we've had some great conversations the past 4 or 5 months. As he's like you, he kind of hit a little lull, and a lot of positive things happening. But he goes, I just feel like I'm being stretched right now, and I'm being remolded. And I'm just keeping my focus on the Lord. And sometimes I don't understand it. And sometimes I'm going to cry and break down. And sometimes I'm just going to say, I have no clue what to do. And he says, but Dad, sometimes that's my most effective prayer, is just saying, Lord, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I shared this one long time ago on a podcast that when we were on our Arizona trip, we stopped at that out in the middle of nowhere, a little gas station in a crafts and had these beautiful, gorgeous pots with all these different colors. But you think about it, those pots didn't start that way. They started out as a nasty brown piece of clay that looks like a big old, somebody took a large dump on the platter, and they molded that. And the Bible talks about He's our potter. He's the one that molds us and shapes us. And then we have to go through that fire in order to be on the other side, this beautiful pot. And it's amazing to me that we don't allow that to happen. We don't want to go through that to come out on the other side as this colorful and gorgeous pot that's easy to the eyes and that is useful for something. But if we didn't go through that, the molding and the shaping and the kiln, we would never get
It'd still just be a lump.
Right.
Yeah.
Like somebody took a...
Very illustrative.
I think
Yeah.
I mean, it did. I mean, we all know what it looks like now.
There you go.
So when we're in that spot, though, that's what faith is all about, right? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So when you're in that down spot, you just have to believe God's going to work this out somehow. Yeah. And I've definitely been there the past 3 years when my career ended at the Golf Channel. I'm like, what's next? And there were just a lot of circumstances where it's like, this is out of my hands. And so I have to trust God with it.
And now you're doing some really cool stuff, by the way. I mean, what you're doing over there Michael's favorite place.
Yeah, it's been really cool. And,
Yeah,
there
I
were,
was
and
gonna
but there were weeks and months where it's like, did I do enough today to find a job? Like, I didn't have time today to spend 3 hours applying for things because I had to do, tend to the family. And so there were many days where I felt like I didn't hold up on my end of the deal. So how am I ever going to get back into the workplace? But God worked it out in His time.
Right.
So there were moments where it's like, I have to trust Him, and I have to believe that whatever 6 months, a year from now, I'm going to have a good story to tell about how He worked this out. So there's always that element of faith, and that's what we're walking through all the time.
Did you ever catch yourself saying, did I do enough to please you? And is this why I'm not, like, you're not answering? Did you ever get there?
Not really about
some
pleasing
people,
Him.
Yeah.
But there's just that part of me that believes that we're supposed to be responsible, and we're supposed to. I don't know. I've always struggled with that. Like, I have to do my part. Like
Right.
if I sit on the couch all day and eat Fritos, God's not going to bless me and give me
A six-pack.
right?
I get it.
It's like I have. There's
every time you guys make the fat thing, like, you look at me. So I get it.
You look at me
It's like,
too. These two are
3:30 right
at
here,
the gym
guys.
3 times a week.
No, but I feel like there is a responsibility on our part that we're supposed to do, and so I struggle. I probably err on that side of I didn't do enough today. So how's God going to bless me? How's He going to open a door when I didn't spend X amount of hours, applying for jobs or whatever it was. But He did work it out, and He is working it out.
Well, that's the big, like, atheist statement, right? Out there is like, so, like, you're in bad time. Why does your God just save you? Like, what does that mean? It's like, well, then I don't have to have faith. Like, He says, have faith in me, not
Right.
just ask and I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Esther story, and I was thinking about the Pharaoh story and what God used that act for the firstborn
Yeah.
to free. That was the final straw to free the Israelites, right?
And they ended up plundering the Egyptians as they left. As they were
Correct.
sent away, they left with the Egyptians' gold.
Yeah,
I mean, you couldn't foresee that.
No.
Back when when He was increasing the labor,
Right.
and saying you have to get your own straw and you have
Right.
to make your own bricks. It's like, who would have thought, hey man, 6 months from now we're going to leave with their gold.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think of
And they
that.
still bitched all along the way.
Yeah,
Don't we do that as men? God, He parted the freaking Red Sea, man. And then they, I don't want manna anymore. I want meat.
Yeah, wasn't good enough.
And that's what we do.
So now we're going to take a 50-year stroll.
Yeah.
That was what? 10 days? It should have taken?
It should have taken 10 days. Ugh, yeah, it's wild.
Wow.
Isn't that a good example as men? It's like, come on, guys, stop trying to fix it and stop bitching, man. Just let it happen.
Or trust that it's going to happen. And we talk about faith a lot. Faith and trust in the Lord, are they the same or are they different meanings? Do you truly trust the plan of the Lord in the Bible?
I think they're different.
I think they're different too. And,
How so? What's the difference?
I don't know why, but when I pray and say, I just say, Lord, I have faith you're going to come through. It's going to be according to your will. But when I change the word in my mind and heart to, all right, Lord, I truly trust you with my mom. I truly trust you with my son. I can't. My mom, the situation where she had Alzheimer's and I'm trying to fix everything and trying to set up everything, and it just brought me down. And it finally came to the point where I just felt Him saying, "Do you trust me with your mom or not?" And so I interject trust and faith a lot, but the God's promise in Genesis 3 was, "I'm sending somebody. You don't know who it is, when He's coming, but He's going to right all these wrongs." I trust that plan because God's promises have never been broken. And I don't know, I kind of interact trust and faith sometimes as far as it helps me focus. I don't,
Sure.
It's just me and my prayer life. And
We have sat here for 102 episodes now.
I think this will be 104.
Okay. And I remember listening to the first time that we started.
we were horrible.
Oh,
man.
it was terrible.
It was-
But look what we've been through with each other's lives.
Oh, it's
and
been a lot.
how we've ultimately, when we think about it, it's always been the Lord that has put us on top. Not on top that we've got all this stuff or anything like that, but on top where when we trusted Him, he came through in so many situations. And we've been able to see that from our first podcast to this one. And it's going to be that way from our 104th to our 204th.
Right.
However that looks like and however long down the road that is, we're going to be able to say, guys, we are living examples of what happens when you put your trust in the Lord. There's been a lot of trials, man.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of trials.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this table.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
When the Israelites thought they were going to die, or when the Jews thought they were going to die, I don't know how long that went on, but man, they mourned and they cried out and they did all that stuff, and God let it happen. Mm-hmm. He knew he was going to redeem them, but I just think it's interesting how he will let us go through those seasons where we don't see him, we don't hear him, but he's still there.
But it's kind of like your kids, right? Like you see them getting ready to mess up, and like you could stop them,
Right.
They'll never learn from it. So you
Right.
kind of got to let them. Maybe you'll never let them get kill themselves or severely injure themselves.
Sure.
But you may let them,
Have some consequences.
have a little bit of a consequence. So in
Sure.
action, you've warned them about it several times.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I take it, because we're talking about a cosmic level, right?
Right.
Not just a don't touch the stove, you'll burn your hand. It's don't
Right.
don't do that or you'll go to hell for eternity. So like the ultimate consequence is a lot bigger, and he tends to like catch us right before we can
Right.
go down that really destructive cosmic path. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was going to say he sees the beginning from the end, so he knows how he can redeem every situation. So sometimes I take comfort in that when I don't know what's going to happen. I'm like, well, God, you see the beginning from the end. You know how it's going to work out, and I believe He's got a plan. So I hold on to that a lot. So hopefully anybody who's listening who's in a bad spot right now, you just hold on, because he's worked things out in us, and he still is, and he still will.
He's still molding, man.
Yeah.
And when you say hold on, I think the biggest thing is not to hold on to you. It's once you finally like surrender to it, and you're like, all right, I'm done. Like, okay, I'm obviously what I'm doing is not freaking working.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm just going to close my eyes, sit here for 30 minutes, and then like, just tell me what you want.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
sometimes you stand up and, but other times it's like, all right, I still don't know, but at least I know you're sending me somewhere.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you walk out the door, and then boom, right in your face it happens. And you may not even know it happened at that moment.
Yep.
There's a lot of people struggling this time of year.
Why not?
Especially this year. This is a tough year.
It's been
For a
tough
lot of
for a
people.
lot of people I know. There's a lot of heartache, a lot of people that have lost people, or they're going through divorce, or a lot of baggage comes out at the holiday time. And do you stop and think? Do we stop and think? I trust through this season. And how often do we just say this is only a season, right?
Yep.
I mean, the Cowboys might go 5-12, but it's only a season. There's
they
always the
5-12?
next season. No, not this
No,
year, but they played like it the other night.
Yeah.
But and I'm not trying to make a football analogy with that, but it's we just have these ebb and flows of our life, and our anchor point that we just hold on to is what He did for us, and how that sets us up for eternal life and a peace that we can't reckon until we just finally give it to Him.
I agree with that totally, because I sit there and I think some nights I'm like, man, if I can just get to the morning, and the sun, His mercies are new every morning. The sun is going to come up, maybe behind some clouds sometime, but it's always going to come up. And when it is behind those clouds, we know that it's going to be a blue sky one day, and it's inevitable. But we don't allow that to happen.
It's one of those things, you can't get green grass without sun and rain. So, I mean, you got to have that time of day that's not so pleasant.
Did you just make that up?
I did.
Wow.
Nice.
I might quote that, dude. That's a T-shirt.
That's a T-shirt, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we do it.
You gave me a really good visual there.
Yeah. West Virginia comes through. The
That's right, baby.
the last thought of 2023. Oh boy.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Mountain Mama.
Mountain Mama.
Wow. Well, we just hope everybody has an amazing holiday time. We're going to take off next week just for the holidays. Everybody got family in town.
Couple.
Gonna spoil some family members, some nieces, nephews, grandkids, whatnot. First year as a granddad right over here.
I was going to say that was
they coming
definitely
down?
another high point of my year
Right.
was having a granddaughter in
Amen.
September. So we're going to go up and see them Saturday.
Nice.
They were
Yeah.
down for Thanksgiving.
That's
so
cool.
it's
The
awesome.
baseball trips, too, for me is just a highlight of my year
Yes,
as well.
sir. Yeah.
My Disney trips were a lot of fun.
Shut up. We're recircle up right after the holiday. Maybe talk about what are our plans for 2024, and maybe there is a resolution that you want to try to do better. Think about that, and we'll come to the party and maybe talk through that, as well as just so many amazing things of men trying to overcome and heal through the power of Christ like we do, and helping men discover grace one man at a time. So check us out on the website. Get your Tim Tebow tickets. The link is on the website. You can go to kingcenter.com. June 13th, it's the Grace for the Family Experience. It's a celebration of men and their families around Father's Day, and the importance of us men knowing who we are in Christ for the betterment of our wives, of our children, of our friends, and our families. And so check us out June 13th. Tim's going to be coming in and joining us, and
let's celebrate men for a change instead of
that's where we're going.
Emasculating our men right now.
Yep, that's where we're going that night, and we're just going to talk about our roles and how us knowing who we are in Christ truly affects our family. Just keep talking about the grace of God and how powerful it is to help us get through. So with that said, I am Trey.
I'm Michael.
I'm Brett.
I'm Jeremy.
We are the
Cussin Christians.
Ho ho, happy New Year.
Are you guys at a bowl this year?
Yeah.
What?
It's the one up in North Carolina in Charlotte.
North Carolina Bowl.
The Bell Bowl?
No, it's like
Belt Bowl.
Bell
I think
Bowl.
it's okay.
Blue Bell Bowl.
Blue Bell?
Blue Bell Ice Cream Bowl.
Michelin Bowl or something.
We suck bad enough not to get into a good bowl.
Yeah.
Dude, what's the
I'm
logo?
actually pretty happy about this last